Hello everybody, and welcome to Tête-à-tea. And I'm handing over to Ridhima for now.
Good evening, everyone. I, Ridhima Doshi, SAS Woman of Udaipur, take pleasure to welcome you all to the virtual chat session organized by Prabha Kitan Foundation in association with Kahalli under initiative of Tête-à-tea. Today's chat session is with eminent corporate boss Mr. Sandip Ghose and notable screenplay writer Advaita Kala. Connecting with eminent personalities on a virtual platform and hearing them speak brew up excitement and enjoyment. Tête-à-tea is one of in conversation initiatives of Prabha Kitan Foundation under its culture and heritage vertical. The foundation's Tête-à-tea session is organized on YouTube page of Kahalli. Before I introduce the guest, Mr. Sandip Ghose, who will be in conversation with Ms. Advaita Kala, let me say a few words about the foundation. Prabha Kitan Foundation, as a Kolkata-based, is a Kolkata-based non-profit trust recognized as an organization that creates finest literary and cultural experiences on global map. The foundation was established by an eminent Indian literature, entrepreneur, philanthropist, social activist, and feminist, late Dr. Prabha Ketan, back in 1980s. The foundation is custodian of literary traditions and heritage of India. It has a kaleidoscopic range of boutique initiatives that encourage the literary and cultural marvels of the nation. With our vision to work for a better tomorrow, we endeavor to reach out to more people and enrich their lives with stimulating and intellectual conversations on life, literature, and cultural diversities. The foundation enjoys pan India and overseas presence through tastefully curated physical and virtual events in close association with our patron Sri Cement Limited and distinguished associates, partners, collaborators, and SAS Women of India. Let me now say a few words about today's session. Tête-à-tea, an engaging cultural initiative, brews up conversation over a cup of tea. It's a freewheeling chat where notable personalities share insights on a particular topic, enlighten the audience with experiences and knowledge. Contribution of Advaita Kala is immense for Foundation's initiative. Without her support, this would not have been possible. We are highly grateful to Ms. Kala for creating Kahalli platform, connecting our esteemed audience with eminent personalities from various walks of life on her online platform that nurtures scope for insightful dialogues and discussions. With us, we have as our guest Mr. Sandeep Ghose, who is a business leader, general management professional with multidisciplinary skill sets. He has nearly 4 decades of experience and has held various senior leadership positions in various FMCG companies, media, cement companies all across India and Nepal. He's a qualified chartered accountant and a professional coach, accredited by International Coach Federation. Coase is a prolific commentator on current affairs. He's an invited columnist in several print and online publications, TV, and news channels. He's a strong believer in India's growth story and passionate about mentoring and developing leaders of the future. He's also a blogger and social media influencer. In conversation, we have Ms. Advaita Kala. Advaita is a celebrated Indian author, screenwriter, and a columnist. She penned the screenplays of romantic drama Anjana Anjani, thriller movie Kahani. She's also a novelist. She's written 2 novels to her credit, Almost Single and Almost There. During COVID-19 outbreak in India, she ran a community kitchen by the name of Janta Rasoi in Gurugram. Today's topic is corporate living, leaving, and returning. The discussion is sure to be an exciting one because the topic is so relevant to the modern world. Today's session is supported by Sri Cement as a part of their CSR initiative. Without any more delay, let's start the conversation. Over to you, Advita.
Thanks so much, Ridhima. And viewers of my channel will know Sandeep Ghose for his far more prolific achievement, which is appearing on the Sunday Club and being one of the Sunday Clubbers. Which I think supersedes all these other great things you've done in your life, Sandeep.
Absolutely. I can't agree more.
But thank you so much. This is a totally different aspect to your personality that our viewers are going to get to see, and that is the corporate CEO. And I couldn't think of a better person to, engage with this topic, because so much is going on in the world of business post COVID. And this is where I find your trajectory very interesting. You took early retirement prior to COVID. Now, a lot of people are quitting their jobs post COVID because they've gotten so used to working from home, and especially the Gen Zs and the millennials. They prefer to work from home. They don't want to work in corporates. In fact, in the US, they have a huge crisis of young people quitting and not wanting to be part of the organizational hierarchy. And here you are getting back to work post COVID. So, explain a little of this to me, please.
First of all, thank you so much. This is indeed not only a pleasure, but a privilege to be on such a platform. And I must add, I have you said Shree Cements is your sponsor. I have a very high regard for Mr. H.M. Bangar, because I belong to the cement industry, at least now, and he is an iconic personality there. And also being in Calcutta, I do know Prabhakar Foundation and Sri Cements Association with it. So it's indeed a very proud moment for me to be on this show. So Advaita, how do I put it? I like to introduce myself to people. In fact, I wrote a blurb for somebody's book, and where I introduce myself as a pioneering early quitter, a quiet quitter. And that's what I did. And just before COVID, and a lot of people were surprised. And, those 3 years, I had a tough time explaining to people that I actually did nothing. Because when people asked me, what do you do? I would say nothing. And then they say, yeah, but what do you do? And I went to tell them that, yes, and that time I was not appearing on the Sunday Club. Otherwise, I could have said, I do my cameo on Sunday Club. But so this was I'll come back to it. I think this was the most remarkable time of my life. It helped me not only rejuvenate, to some extent rediscover myself, reinvent myself, and all of that. Now we'll come back to why I decided to return. That's also another story. But throughout my career, one thing is common. I have been, like some would say, a somewhat reluctant corporate executive. I don't know whether I got into the corporate world, I think partly by default. You mentioned about my being a qualified chartered accountant. I became a chartered accountant, not because my father was one, but kind of process of elimination over there. Between various options. But I don't think my heart was there in accounting ever. So right from the beginning of my career, I was very fortunate to join a company which allowed a lot of freedom for people to choose their careers even within that company. Something which, when you're mentioning about today's millennials, they're trying to do it themselves. So I joined then Hindustan Lever, which was, some regarded it to be the real, alma mater for management education for a lot of people. And in fact, when I was joining them, I told them, I'm not too sure whether I'd like to join you as an accountant. They said, no, you don't have to join us as an accountant. You can chart your career. We try to match people's aspirations to what we have to offer. And if you are up to it, you can make your way the way you want to. So I did practically no accounting there. And although it was the same company where I worked for over 20 years or about 20 years, I did jobs in, as disparate things as selling diapers and sanitary products, and selling animal feeds to begin with, cattle feed and poultry feed, and then selling tea. Then somebody mentioned going to Nepal. When I went to Nepal as the CEO of Nepal Lever, it was one of the most turbulent periods of Nepal. It was the time when there was a Maoist movement at its peak.
Which year were you there, Sandeep? Which year were you?
98 to 2002. The Maoist movement. Today's Prime Minister Prachanda was then, underground, and all sorts of things were happening. My factory was getting bombed. And then you had this massive incident of the palace, massive
Yes.
happened there. We had another strange incident called the Hrithik Roshan riots, when it was basically a rumor spread against Indians saying that Hrithik Roshan has, said something uncharitable about Nepalese. And which he tried to correct, but he, I think, compounded the mistake, said, how could I ever say anything against the Nepalese, because my ayah was a Nepalese and my cook was a Nepalese, and it kind of compounded the issue. We people are very good at doing. I don't want to name another star. This is just an aside, who came to Nepal and is being interviewed by an FM channel, and she said, well, Nepal is the most beautiful state of India. And then again, hell broke.
I
So
want to know who this is.
so that sort of thing happened. So I did that, and then I took a huge leap to join the media. I worked for two media companies, not in journalism, but on the management side. I worked for two newspapers. I was first with the ABP group, which and looked after their two English publications, The Telegraph and Business World. But apart from being in a different business, it exposed me to a very different world. And that's why probably I came back to dabble in media, post my, I can say, my first retirement. I got to do. I was always, I think to some extent, I was looking for maybe variety, maybe, I would get bored on things. But at the same time, I think it helped me sort of reinvent myself. And I think what I did, perhaps a little earlier in my day, partly, by default or otherwise, that is what, when you're talking about today's youngsters, want to do. So when I talk to, let's say, my daughter, I tell her, see, in your life, you're not just going to change 3 jobs. You're going to change career 3 times in your life, which someone like you has already done. You have you started in hospitality, from what I know, and then you've moved into films, and now into this. So they will change, and that is what our age, we did not have the luxury to do it, because we needed the financial security. So one tried to do within a framework. And today's youngsters, when you're saying, when they are actually quitting and trying out things of their own, because they have, I think, partly that genetically we were, I think, sort of not risk takers, we're risk averse, but genetically also these people, our younger people, are today able to take more risks, and they're really not worried, if they're, say, out of a job for a couple of years, or they have to do something totally different. So that's changing, and that's why today, the world, the way, the speed at which it is changing, I tell youngsters, today is probably a mistake. When I was passing out, I remember my dad said, you're sure you just, after CA, you want to start off, you don't want to go and do an MBA, don't want to go overseas, or so, you can do it while I'm around, sort of a thing. But today I would say that's a mistake, because if you spend more time learning, by the time what you have learned, it has become obsolete, what you had learned earlier. So today, instead of front-ending the education, people have to keep, relearning from time to time. So you do something, take a break, learn something new, and then move forward and do something. So that is how people will move forward. And that's where what you're saying, the youngsters are doing precisely that. And so coming back to your question, I quit for very valid reasons, or to me, I was very clear in my mind that having, done the corporate, I call it slavery for 35 years, I said, I've earned my freedom. And if I can, and when COVID struck, that's when you also take fresh stock of life. Uh, People always ask, what is midlife crisis? Yeah, and midlife crisis is actually intimations of mortality. And what COVID did is give us that
Mm.
intimation of mortality. And that's when you start examining the values, what you want to live for. And you don't know what's going to happen. And when you see around you so many people passing away and within close relation, friends, and you ask that question, and if you have to live the next couple of years of your life, how would you like to do it? And I chose to retire to the hills. Which is something you would relate to, being coming from the hills yourself. Having built that place down south, I lived in the Nilgiris. I said I must enjoy it because I don't know at the end of 3 years where I'll be. So I went there, and 3 years I just sort of chilled. Uh, you know, I had to initially, tell myself getting up in the morning that, oh, it's fine that you have nothing to do today, that your diary is empty. You don't necessarily have to plan,
Did you
start your.
spend COVID? Did you spend COVID in Kunur? Is that where you were during the COVID phase, or were you in
The second,
Kolkata?
the second wave. I went to Kunur as soon as the first wave subsided and the lockdown opened up. So as soon as the
Oh,
lockdown
okay.
opened, I went there, and the second and whatever third wave, I was throughout that I was in Kunur. I hardly moved out.
Mm,
I didn't travel.
mm,
And
mm,
it gave me that time and space to rediscover myself. I always wanted to write, so I wrote a lot during that period. Wrote almost prolifically, not writing a novel or anything, but I was writing for the media. That gave me a tremendous amount of joy. Then I participated in some of the television shows and everywhere else, and I found I had something to say. And when you find that people are recognizing that,
mm.
that you are uh, also discovering some bit of yourself which probably you
Mm.
didn't do while you were in the so-called on the
The first time I
uh,
actually met you, Sandeep, I don't know if you recall this, but the first time I met you was in Delhi, outside the first post office, and you were
Mhm.
there for election analysis.
Oh, yeah,
Have you?
yeah, yeah. I remember
You,
that. We were there.
yeah. So,
It was a
what was it
wonderful.
like? Being from a corporate background and having to always be so careful about political speak and taking political positions, to then jumping into being in front of the camera, and like it's every budget, whichever government, all of corporate India says this is lovely. So that's the world you've kind of been bred in for 30 years, and then you come
See,
here.
that was much easier than what it is today, because then that was a sense of liberation. You suddenly didn't have to worry about who thought what the next day. And a lot of people, how media or and social media is today. That people, if you say something in favor of the government, people call you a bhakt, and if you say something
Yeah.
and they call you something else. But I couldn't care less, because I was
Mm.
when people told me that, I said, see, I don't depend on anybody, even for my forget my next meal, even for my drink. I have earned it. I can do it. So if tomorrow, someone is offended by my statement, I'm not seeking any favor from the government, or have to worry about which government is going to come back to power tomorrow. So it gave that a great sense of liberation, to be able
Mm.
to be your own self, not worry about. Okay, you are conscious about what is your image, or what's the personal branding to some extent, but it was not, no strings attached. I was not expecting anything to come out of it. Otherwise, I would
Right.
not be the Sunday club, where you don't pay us anything and
By
do,
the way, I
do
would just want to say, all you Sunday clubbers have paid for my extensive dental treatment, which is ongoing right now. So thank you so much. I
so
really
I,
would love it.
so in fact, now it is more constraining, because I'm even today I'm turning down requests or invites to appear on shows for something or the
Mm.
other, for the BBC and
I saw
everything, because
that.
so even today, just now before we call up there, people want me. asked me to come there, but I can't take it. Obvious reason, I don't have the responsibility not just for myself but the organization I work in. So that was extremely liberating.
Hmm. But what is it like to have gone through that sense of feeling free and enjoying it, and then coming back to, responsibility and all of the other things that comes with being in corporate life? Because many times I meet people who are mid-career level, say my age group, and they always look at me with such longing. you know they always say, oh God, I wish I could get out of the rat race and do nothing. And it's like this big goal for them. It's not something that's off.
It was very much true for me too. But you see, last 3 years, I never looked out for any opportunity in the corporate world. Not that too many came my way either, to be very honest. But I was not really craving to get back to the corporate world, either for for financial reasons or for status or whatever that to be. Many of my contemporaries, even those who called it a day contemporary or slightly older, they are engaged in lots of other things. Their people are board members, this and that, which gives them, an impressive calling card and this thing. I was not craving at all for that. The reason I came back were two. One, I came back to the same organization where I was working earlier, and I thought there was sort of an unfinished work I had left. To that extent, maybe I was being unfair to them when I left, kind of packed my bags and went off. Not just to the organization, as in the promoters or the, my bosses, but a lot for a lot of the people. Many of the people had moved here uh, because of me. I'm not trying to boast, because this organization was a little bit a traditional organization. And so, in terms of what you call quote unquote employer value at that point in time, it wasn't that high. And a lot of transformation happened during the period I was here earlier. So, many people had joined, and it was a sort of sense of feeling that, I had left them in the lurch and walked away. So, that was one thing. But then, because my work was sort of incomplete. And then I felt that, there is so much of happening around India, which you and I recognize, because others are
Hmm.
so blind. They either don't want to recognize or. So I said, there's no point in trying and talking about it on television or writing something there. You have to be part of it. And if you can be
Yeah.
part of it to, share the action, is something I owed to myself, to this organization, and without sounding pompous or anything, even maybe to the nation at large. If I'm setting an example, no big way, in a small way, if I'm setting an example of what you can do back in the workplace, that is one. The other thing, really, I did, apart from this whole political current affairs thing, I did a fair amount of thinking and writing also in the way the work was changing, not just work life. People needed to rethink about what is work, and especially the younger
Yeah.
generation, and simply do a lot of mentoring and coaching. I said maybe that is also something I can give back genuinely, in without any having any pretensions, or maybe there's, and because, as you said, a lot of youngsters want to do things, but they sometimes lack guidance. Even
Mm.
you're much younger, you would have got, when we started off, you are kind of just getting onto a bus. There may be three buses, and you decide to jump onto one bus or the other. You are not
Yeah.
really taking a very conscious decision. There was nobody really guiding you. You couldn't, and so today's generation are, I think, to that extent, even more handicapped. You know, uh,
Mm.
because there is a very favorite quote I gave. There is an author, my favorite author called Charles Handy. He kind of, he was somewhere in between the world of philosophy and management. He wrote. So he used to call something called a Davies Bar syndrome. he came from Ireland, where he said these were, I've never been to Ireland, but he said that there are places where there is no civilization and you drive for miles and miles. And then if you ask somebody for a direction, he'll tell you, oh, very simple, go towards Davies Bar, but turn 10 miles before that left. Now, you don't know, so you have to guess where Davies Bar is and take the turn. And so that's what many people are trying to do, they don't where they're going. And in that situation, I think they can do, and a lot of them seek out and guidance, or again, with people who they know have no agenda. They're not trying to, most of the time I do this is pro bono. I'm not even trying to get.
Yeah, can you coach me? Because I have entrepreneurial spirit, as you're aware. I know how to exploit the workers. Can you coach me? I have an instinct for it.
I need to learn from you. That's because you're a natural.
Yes.
As they say, some have greatness thrust upon them. Some are great to born with. You're a natural.
No, but what you're saying is so important, because I had a great teacher, Mr. David Longworth, and he used to say that at some point in your life, in your career, you're going to feel like you're walking through the mist and you're going to be walking through the clouds. And that has happened to me very recently, despite, the screenwriting awards and all of that, being in a state of flux and not knowing what lies ahead. And his words keep coming back to me, where he says, all you have to do in those times is just put one foot in front of the other and keep walking, and you'll walk through the cloud. And I think, to me, that has been like a real powerful mantra to get through those years or times when you don't know what's lying ahead for you.
True. And that's what, earlier they used to say it was a VUCA world, that's what was volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous.
Sure.
Now, in this age of disruption, they've invented this new term called BANI. BANI is BANI, which so they're talking of B stands for brittle. It is a brittle world, and it's, of course, it's still remains not just ambiguous. It also has become non-linear, and very, very non-linear world, as you're saying. And finally, it's also incomprehensible most of the time. You don't know what's happening, what really. So to navigate through that, it's a tough one, and nobody has the answer.
Sandeep, what do you think the future of business looks like? Because back in the day when I was a kid and when you were in your, starting out your career, it was like the MNC was the big thing, right? So Hindustan Lever, I remember, I had a cousin who got into Hindustan Lever back in the, I think, early 90s, pre-liberalization, and it was a huge success. It was massive, because there were such few options in terms of workplaces, and this was like the MNC era, the beginning of the MNC era in India. So what do you think the future of business and employment is going to look like for young people? I remember in hospitality in the early 2000s, when I started working in hotels, one of the things that they told us, this is when the internet bubble had not burst and was just sort of blossoming. They told us that don't expect your CEOs to be dressed like you are right now in suits. You're going to have guys coming in torn jeans and t-shirts, and they're going to be worth a couple of $1 million. So don't be condescending to them. Treat them well, treat everyone well, so you're on the safe side. Of course, we've got used to the tech guy. What's next?
See, Advaita, just look at, since you mentioned hospitality, the businesses, the hospitality, the kind of companies you were in, how much they have had to rejig and reinvent themselves in the last 3 years. They cannot operate with the old model. That is the change. And when you're talking of Hindustan Lever, I used to tell people that Hindustan Lever, before they would launch a new soap or shampoo earlier, it'll be in gestation for 2 years. They'll do this research, that formulation, and then see, during COVID, they launched so many products, not only Hindustan Lever, others, in just a matter of few weeks. They had to launch it. and then suddenly they found the whole distribution channel had changed. Okay, in no time, because things were getting direct to consumers, not even through Amazon or anybody, but it was going directly to consumers. Apart from the internet, and the supermarkets were suddenly shut and everything. So, and by the time they've come out, as you and I know, uh, what people are consuming, what they want, tastes have changed. Okay, and
Hmm.
who is better? So people have become hyper local. The closer to nature. People want to cook things at home, and then when they're experimenting. So the whole gamut of how you what you're looking at, for which consumer you're looking at, and the consumers. This is a jumping topic. Say, look at media today.
Hmm.
Your YouTube, how people are so-called consuming news has
Yeah.
changed. Okay, even old fogies like me don't touch a newspaper for so long. I don't watch even a news program. Okay,
Yeah.
or even check on a news site. You're constantly consuming thing on your phone, and that's why each one of them, even the old channels, you see how much of this, your first post you're talking about, how much of publicity they're doing behind Palki Sharma's launch of the program,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
they realize that now uh,
It's all
uh,
digital.
it's all digital, and that's how people are consuming. And
And I mean, I'm talking about Sunday Club again, but that's something you and I have in common. We actually came together because we had nothing better to do, and honestly, we've not promoted it or anything, but we clocked like easy 30,000 plus views without any promotion, anything, just meeting because people are seeking out content which is not on mainstream news.
And there, as you see, Advaita, we need not boast. When you're talking about 30,000 or 50, 60,000, don't look at it in the entire universe. We are talking to a particular segment or set. That's why,
Hmm.
our friend Pallavi Ghosh says that she's recognized at the airport and say, "Oh, today on Sunday you're not going to joining Sunday Club," or things like that. Because there is a particular, so that kind of
Niche.
segmentation has happened. Okay,
Yeah.
or people who watch my staff at home, who listen to YouTube channels, Hindi YouTube channels from Bihar or UP. They are into another space, and that's where. So how, when people are trying to deliver content or media, the entire thing has exploded. So when you were talking just now of, before we started, you talked of Naika. Now, do you think a Naika could have succeeded the same way 10 years ago? Uh,
Yeah, that's true. But it's also what you're saying here is also community building, right? Humans have always built communities. Like what we have with our show is a community of viewers who are loyal, and we're loyal to them, and we have banter with them as well and with each other. But we're now a community, and this to me is fascinating. How without, in this era, without meeting somebody, without talking to them, and I don't want to use the word influencer because that's just, I think, a little facile. I think it's deeper than that. But one does actually become part of a community and develop a community much more organically than earlier.
Absolutely, and as you said, through the organically, but virtually. You know,
Yes.
it
So you've never met.
It's very flattering when I find somebody on Twitter says, "Oh, hey, you're no longer on Twitter, and
Hmm.
we are looking for your opinion." And so why do they do, or why did I, break into that space? Is because probably some people related to my way of thinking, who was not extreme, who probably was bit right, but not totally extreme right. So there is again that sort of a community who are looking out for that kind of a content where people can talk sense without, going to extremes in a polarized way. So
Yeah.
it's absolutely true. You, you know,
We have some
and
questions from our viewers. So, Sandeep, whenever you're ready, I'll ask you.
no, that's fine. I was just going to add, it's what virtual things has taught us during that period, during COVID. Earlier, to find that sort of community, you had to go to a club or a coffee shop or somewhere to get people together. Today, you can do it, virtually like this, and that's what is a big shift.
Okay, yes, that's true. And let's get to our questions. Manoj K is asking Sandeep ji, more than games, jeans, will you not give it to Roti Kapra Makan already insured by parents of Gen Z to choose their own path and take risks?
No, it's true. Obviously, there is roti kapra makan factor is there, but not beyond a point. I think it's more a question of the mindset. Not everybody's parents can underwrite the future of the children forever, because another thing which has happened, uh, with general longevity increasing, people, even post retirement or their thing, they also need a lot more finances to carry on until late in life. They cannot depend like earlier on the children to look after them. And
True.
more importantly, after retirement, people are also looking at a certain lifestyle, which was, it's
Hmm.
not that earlier they would go into a small town and retire and not do so. Today, people are retiring would also like to lead a decent lifestyle. So beyond, they really cannot underwrite the children to say, "Oh, go do whatever," maybe for a while, but and thereafter they are on their own. So
Hmm.
there is an element of security to begin with, and all. Maybe there is. They don't have to straight away know that, oh, as soon as I've passed, I have to start earning and contributing to the family. That is not there, that pressure. Or even later on, parents today may not expect children to, contribute or look after them in that sense. But people will have to take risk, and I think they are. We were, due to a variety of reasons, and we were made risk averse. Even as a country, we were risk averse. We would not be taking,
Socialism,
socialism, and
a little bit communism. Hmm.
yeah, and if you lived in a scarcity-driven,
Hmm.
environment, so you would like to, preserve whatever you've got. Don't want to just fritter it away, not knowing whether you're going to get it tomorrow. So all those factors were there. Uh,
There,
so
yeah.
so these people haven't seen that kind of a situation. So the parents are much more liberal when they've grown up. That's fine. They didn't have to see parents scrounging, perhaps. That gave
Hmm.
them a sense of what you call abundance. Okay, they had the
Hmm.
abundant mentality, as opposed to our mentality of our means my generation, when we had to have a conservation mentality. You always needed to
That's what
preserve.
I sort of speak of my generation as the liberalization generation, where we suddenly got MTV, Coca-Cola, all of that, which were like, earlier contraband items. So I think that has infused in my generation, or at least I recognize it in myself and in many of my friends, is a sense of can do and an optimism, which is good. In that sense, I feel like we've been lucky that way, because the generations that have come after, like the millennials or the Gen Zs now, you
Hmm.
are seeing a sort of disenchantment as well. And that brings me to this question from Darwinian Chimp, and I think wokeism has a lot to do with it. Is Do you see Indian corporates promoting woke philosophies in the coming future? And I think this is, I think wokeism does kind of make you look at the worst of everything, even when you don't have to. That's my personal view. But go ahead.
Corporates, again, it will be I think it will be unfair and difficult to paint them with the same brush, because there are layers and layers within our corporates. Uh, Wokeism would be true for corporates which touch a certain segment of the population, whether as consumers or interacting in their life. But I would say, but in a very larger context, if you were to try and generalize, I think Indian corporate world is still fairly insulated, and you cannot really judge, and it varies even from city to city. If you go to a conservative city like Calcutta or Chennai, it would be definitely more insulated than compared to, say, Delhi or Bombay. Um,
Bombay, yeah.
and and the industry, which kind of industry you're in, the segment, that I think matters a lot.
Hmm. And here's a question from Shalini. I think this is really interesting. She's saying, "You're inspirational. I'm a CA, worked for IOC for 16 years and left the job to take care of kids, but of late took a major interest in politics. How do I go ahead? What to read? Please guide." Another political analyst in the offing.
I don't think she means being a political analyst. If she only knew that being a political analyst doesn't get you anywhere, I think she wants to
No one
join.
likes you.
Uh,
Oh, she
uh,
wants politics. I
I
don't know. If
think
you're still watching, let us know, Shani, whether you want to join politics or you want to be on TV and be a political analyst. And while
but
she's getting back to us on that, I want to
joining
ask you.
is an option for a lot of, I know quite a few youngsters today who, if they're aligned, even political parties are looking for, youngsters who can work for them, because they have got now so many of these, think tank and cells. I've been surprised sometime on a flight meeting some very old world politician, and the person who is sitting next to him as a PA is a qualified MBA, or who's doing that. Or I knew somebody who was part of Rajiv Gandhi's back office, and also Sachin Pilot's. She was an US university graduate working for them, and doing more cerebral part of the work. So most organizations also, there is a scope of politics itself has become a bit of a career, and from there, if they make a switch to actually those who have the inclination to get to active politics. But the issue in politics today, if you want to get into real electoral politics, is funds. You need somebody to bankroll you.
Getting money, basically. Ridhima, do you have any questions? We did want to talk about women in entrepreneurship and women in corporate roles. So I'm going to hand over to Ridhima.
Sandeep, I just want to ask, how do you see the, young crowd, the youth, the millennial or the Z generation choosing their politicians of the future? You know, we were in the era where our politicians would be, 80 years of age, 75 years of age. But now I think it's become more like a corporate world, even the politics, where we see young, educated politicians coming on the stage. And it's also, there's another flip side where it has also become like a marketing firm, the politics, each politician has its own marketing firm backing them up. So it's all about, how good you can market yourself, how good you are at Twitter, this, that, how good you are in social media and all of those. But at the same time, how do you think, the politics of future is evolving, and who are going to be the future leaders? Who's good at marketing, or who's more educated, or who's more experienced?
See, you must read. I write a fortnightly column called "Marketing Musings" in for
New Indian Express.
my marketing musings. I write the column for Money Control.
Money control. Money control.
So,
Yeah.
and I have done quite a few of my columns on that, about political marketing or political branding. So, see, branding, don't mistake. It does not have to be always slick and glamorous. Baba Ramdev is also doing his branding. He's doing it in a particular
That's
manner.
so true. Yeah.
He is selling a brand, and he may be, and I don't think he is doing it just in a with his native intelligence. There's a lot of thought goes in. Like some people say, Narendra Modi Okay, not just in terms of how he has marketed himself as a leader. There are people who are writing books say that his appeal among women or
Hmm.
the youth is far more than some of your quote unquote more savvy, more Oxford
Yes,
educated, younger leaders.
agreed.
So marketing is not, and that's why the people make the mistake. And some people get carried away hearing someone's speech in parliament, or the kind of tweets somebody does, or the kind of clothes. Uh, that's where the younger generation, I think, is far more savvy than we think them to be. They are looking for, delivery. They are looking. See, younger generation is aspirational. What has changed in India is from earlier being told that you live selling a povertarian mentality. Today you are, if you give people hope and not false hope, if you're showing them the way that this is how you can improve your lot, these are the opportunities, these are the possibilities which are opening up, that's what they go for. Okay, and they realize that is sometimes person agnostic. uh, uh, so, uh, so that is the real marketing which people are able to do, and where people fail is when they don't realize that. So my last column, which I wrote a week before, was when you see these states marketing themselves in these so-called investor summits. Okay, everybody tries to do the same thing. They engage big agencies and splurge a lot of money, but within that, who makes a difference? I was there in this. I'm not making a political statement, but very, very dispassionate academic statement. I was there in UP last week for the UP Investor Summit. I was there 5 years ago for the first summit with Yogi Adityanath did. Now, obviously, there is in terms of the event or the showmanship, things have changed and they are scaled up. But what people are seeing, what has he delivered between 2018 to now? And if he has got something to showcase, as they say, very typically, basic principle of marketing is you can market only if you have a good product. Without a
Hmm.
product, you cannot market anything. So those are there, and I think we should not underestimate the mindset of, or the intelligence of the younger generation. In fact, I find, Ridhima, there is far more superficial polarization among the older set. When people talk to me about why Mr. X, they want to see Mr. X as the Prime Minister vis-a-vis Mr. Y. I find they're, in fact, both superficial and get guided by prejudices or maybe some subconscious political belief. But the same question, if you go and ask somebody who is younger, they make a very, very pragmatic choice. They are
I'll
not.
add something here. Also when you talk about the old versus young generation, the older generation would always base their decisions or would generalize based on the party or the ideology or the legacy. That's that's what I've personally experienced in my family, or when I talk to the people of that generation. Whereas the younger generation would take candidate by candidate when they analyze. They're not attached to any particular party or ideology or the legacy. They don't have that burden, so they take one candidate based on his performance or his brand or whatever that one has created based on their work, marketing, or whatever.
So they are not preconditioned to that extent,
Yeah,
because
correct.
uh, and they have been also, when you grow up, the younger generation today get far less influenced that by their parents and the families. They are getting
Yeah.
much more space and freedom to make their own choices and develop their own
Yeah.
preferences. But so earlier, as you said, if you belong to a family which was maybe left inclined, the children automatically became that, they were influenced, or another sort of thing. Now, that's why you find from the same family, the not only father and son or daughter, but even between the brother sister, they have very, very different political leanings.
True.
And I've usually found the guys who support the BJP are much more tolerant of different opinions than the ones who are not, because most of the unfriending and all happens from the so-called liberals than the BJP supporter or the Modi supporters, rather, more than even the BJP. But
We
anyway,
are
we got to wrap this up.
we are immune. Those people are very immune. We get bashed so much we couldn't care about that.
Yeah.
But others are probably more sensitive, prickly. So they're up there in the social
Yeah.
hierarchy.
Yeah, we're sort of used to being called everything from bigot to to bhakt to everything. So I think we're just more thick-skinned. But thank you
Okay.
so much, Sandeep, for sparing the time today. It was really lovely to
Nice,
see this
nice.
aspect of your personality. And I hope you'll coach me since you do it pro bono. You said it, not me.
Anything for you.
I love it. Keep revealing more aspects of your personality to me, and I'll see what use I can make of them.
And only the pro bono part is it.
Pro bono parts. But over to you, Ridhima.
So it was definitely an amazing session. And on behalf of the foundation, I would like to thank Mr. Sandeep Ghose for his amazing insight into the topic. I express my gratitude to Ms. Kala for hosting today's session on her YouTube channel and engaging in a cherishing one-to-one conversation with Mr. Ghose. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to our patron Sri Cement and associate Kahalli. Last but not the least, a big thank you to the wonderful audience for taking out their precious time from their busy schedule and attending this session. Goodbye and thank you.
Thank you so much. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.